Well, hello, welcome to Life is Good. I'm Heather McEwen, your ever-loving hostess, and boy, do I have a treat for all of us today.
He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a bopping and a singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, 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 rockin' robin, tweet, tweet, rockin' robin.
Sometimes you meet somebody and they just have done so much with their lives that you just want to hear more. And Ian Cobb is an author, a Montreal Canadiens fan. He had his first job with the Montreal Canadiens. He's living in Belleville, Ontario now. He had a ranch in the Maritimes of Canada. But you'll never believe what he's overcome. On with the show. So, hello, how are you?
I am tickety boo, thank you.
Tickety boo. There's a little Canadian and British saying for you. Okay, now I don't know where to start, but we were both raised on the south shore of Montreal, and we both agree that it was the best place to grow up.
It certainly,
So, yeah, but you had problems in school that really made your life what it is today.
well, I had to overcome some hurdles, and I didn't know, nobody knew what those hurdles were. First of all, I was partly born, partly deaf, and
Yep.
then I had ear infections that increased the deafness. So I struggled. I read lips and listened at the same time. But yeah, and I was dyslexic, and nobody knew in those days. Nobody ever heard the word before, but on paper, letters danced and merged for me. I still can't read on paper. Um, Letters and words move too much for me. My brain just gets, I get a headache trying to read. But the illumination of a screen, I was able to gain my literacy that way, and that was only 14 years ago.
And what have you done with that literacy since?
Well, I did write a book during COVID. I had nothing to do. The gal who helped me get helped me read or write and brought a computer into my home, taught me how to read or write. And I was on the computer every day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, trying to understand how to read or write and how to formulate letters and words and stuff. I had a vocabulary because
Sounds like it.
I used to emulate um, old CBC announcers like Rex Loring and all those
Don't
old
you?
fellas.
And who?
I used to get words from them on the TV, and then I try them out in a sentence on somebody the next day, not knowing what the word meant, and they would correct me, and that what that word means this and that, and that's how I gained my literacy. I educated myself that way.
You're always into self improvement, whether it's literacy or self entertainment or sports or anything. Let's talk about your book. It's got a fantastic title, absolutely best title ever. And you got it in your sleep when you were sound asleep one night and you came up with the title.
Yes, first of all, I started off as a street kid. Uh, After I ran away from home and school at 15 years of age. And I slept on a park bench for 2 winters in a row, summer and winter, never took a handout, worked every day of my life washing windows, piling Coke bottles in restaurants, trying to be an asset wherever I could, make a buck so I could earn a hot dog to eat that night. But I slept on a park bench. Right
Was
across the
that in
road,
was that in Montreal?
from the Forum, and between the Montreal Children's Hospital and the old Forum.
On Dorchester.
Yeah, I used to live
Oh,
in.
right.
No, no, that was St. Catherine.
Oh,
St.
okay.
Cat, St. Catherine Atwater. I used to live in that park. They had an underground washroom where I used to keep myself clean, and then there was an apartment building on Tupper Street a block away that I used to stash my stuff for helping them clean driveways and whatever in the apartment building. So he let me use one of the lockers in the basement to store my sleeping bag and a couple of things that I carried with me. So that's how I started out, and Yeah, ask me another question.
How, how did you end up at the forum?
Well, I was there and I was doing dishes at an upscale restaurant, and there was four fellows sitting at the table on St. Catherine Street, and um, one of them came over. Not one of them. One of my bosses came up to me and says, "There's four fellows over there. They want to speak to you." And I wondered, what the hell do these fellows in pinstripe suits want to talk to me about? I thought they were cops.
Mm.
So I go over and speak to them, and one of them happened to be Danny Gallivan.
Oh my
Broadcast.
God! I know
And
Danny Galvin.
yeah, and he said to
No, I
me,
know. I remember Danny Galvin. I knew Dick Irvin. I didn't know Danny Galvin.
okay, so Danny, I didn't know him either, but he uh, he said my boss there had talked to them because they frequent the place all the time, and told them a little bit about me or whatever, and told them, I guess he told them I was on the streets. So Danny come up to me and he said, "I hear you're sleeping on the street across from the forum." I said, "Yep." He said, "You want a job?" And I said, "Sure, what do you got?" And after they were finished dinner or their meal, I went over to the forum with them, and they introduced me to a fellow in the foyer. And said, "You're to report to this guy every day." And then my job was to babysit these little guys while the dads practiced on the ice. So, um, you know, these little guys, I'd play ball hockey with them, or in the hallways of the forum while they practiced, And that was my job. And then I critiqued that into running messages for different people. Uh, Boom Boom Jeffrey used
Oh
to buy me
God!
a hot dog. Used to buy me a hot dog every game, but I used to go over to the parking lot with his keys and start the car up and warm it up for his wife and family after the game to be warm. I just tried to make myself useful. They couldn't pay me anything. I was a minor. I was only 15 or 16 at the time. And they couldn't give me a paycheck. So they'd buy me meals or hot dogs or whatever. And that's how I learned and I saw the quality of the mannerism and how they dressed and how they lived. And I wasn't in awe of any of them as hockey players. I was there to do a job, and I got to know nice people. So
Well, they were gentlemen. There wasn't a Montreal Canadian, Belleville, Cornway, Savard, Lemaire, Leperrier, Maurice
yeah.
Richard. They treated me like a queen
Oh, is that
because I was
right?
right. Yeah, well, I was the little. My father had season tickets, but my brother hated hockey. So every Wednesday and Saturday nights, I'd go, and Dad's tickets were right by the press box.
I wish I could show you my pictures here. Toll Blake and Dickie Moore and Doug Harvey here.
Oh,
You
Doug
know,
Harvey! He had
oh
a
yeah.
place on Lake Memphremagog close to our cottage, and his
Should I
son.
take my camera off and show you the pictures here?
Yeah,
I
let's do
don't know how
that. We're
to
gonna see
do
some
it.
pictures of the old Montreal Canadiens, folks, and
I hope I
everywhere.
don't.
Oh, you see that picture of three?
There's
Who are they?
who's that? That's Toe Blake, Harvey, and Dickie Moore. And
Wow.
there's a picture I got to show you. Hang on. I think we just
Oh, beer. Yes.
Anyway,
Bienvenue au Québec.
there I am as a diver, a scuba diver. You don't have to read or write underwater. There I am with my homing pigeons.
Yes,
One
you
of them.
raised pigeons. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I raised pigeons since I was a kid. Um, this picture right here in the middle of the group, Frank Selke in there, and
Really?
Jacques Pont. Um,
Oh, the first goalie to wear a mask, folks, if you didn't know
yeah,
hockey.
yeah. Anyway, uh, John Belleville, who signed that, you can kind of see the scribbling on the right-hand corner or whatever of the picture.
Yeah.
He said, "Ian, I run a charity event every winter at the Forum in Montreal. I raise money for the Children's Foundation in tribute for them buying me my first warm bed when I was 17 at the YMCA. But Belvo gave me this picture before he passed a few
Yeah.
years back. And he said, Ian, do you know who took that picture? I said, no.
Cornway?
No, Belvo. He said, you know who took that picture? You did. You were walking up south on the raft and came by, and we had a camera, and Toad Lake is in the picture there. And he
Yeah.
said, so they wanted a picture of the group that morning at practice, so they all came over. Anyway, he signed that picture and gave it to me about 3 years before he passed, and told me that you were the one to take that picture. You were walking there, and we asked you to take the picture of the group. So,
That's amazing. I said Cornway because when I think of Belleville, I think of his best friend, Yvon Cornway.
yeah.
And I can't believe it. Your history is so intertwined.
Hello out there, we're on the air. It's hockey night tonight. Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps, the players bump, the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Bobby scores at the good old hockey game. Oh, the good old hockey game is the best game you can name.
Tell me about the scuba dive. What about the scuba diving? How did that come into play?
Well, when they bought me a room at the YMCA when I was 17, first of all, beside the YMCA on Drummond Street was HMCS Donnacona, a military stationary building, and I joined the cadets. And I loved it. I was somebody for the first time in my life. I wasn't sleeping on the streets anymore. And I used to put my uniform on a Saturday night, walk down St. Catherine Street, all spit and polished. And I was just a snotty-nosed, 5'3" young kid. And they sent me to Nova Scotia cadet camp 2 summers in a row, and I just loved it. I coxswained a whaler down there. I learned how to sail. I learned how to do a lot of stuff. So at 17, I'm going to go to recruiters and join the Navy. I was a scuba diver. I learned how to dive and certified at the YMCA. And on my 17th birthday, I went to the YMCA. I went to the recruiter to sign up, and it was an aptitude test you had to pass. Can you imagine? So I couldn't read or write, and that dream fell apart. About a week later or so, I hopped the box cars out of Montreal. I rode the freight cars all the way out to Calgary and started working pipeline construction as a laborer for a welder. And then I found out that there was a niche job for myself that nobody else would do. And I was a robot before they had robots. I used to go inside pipe 2-3 miles sometimes. A mechanic's cart, if you know what it looks like, it's a caster, a board with casters on it. Mechanic lies on his back, works underneath trucks, etc.
Yeah, is that what they're called? Okay.
So it's a similar rig to that. I used to put my tanks in a cradle beside it, a light on it. I used to go inside pipe sometimes 2 or 3 miles. Nobody else would do it. That's after the pipe is buried, it's welded and buried. They fire a pig through the pipe. That's a name for it's shaped like a bullet, weighs about a ton, has revolving brushes on the sides, on the ends, and they fire this sucker through the pipe, scouring the pipe crystal clean. And sometimes the engineers don't get the side bend right or the over bend right. It gets stuck in there. I gotta go find it. So that's what I did, and that's how I kept my job on the pipeline, because I could do that job. It didn't happen every day. So can you operate that? You know, a dozer or a backhoe or a piece of machinery. John over there is a welder. He needs a helper today. So I had different jobs to do every day, but they kept me around as a diver because of that fact. If you go in a pipe without a regulator or know how to control your mind when you're claustrophobic,
Yeah.
and being on the streets, helped me with that. I feel because you sleep on the streets on a park bench with one eye open. You know, you never know about who's going to approach you. The predation on the street. People have no idea when you're a kid, and the things you have to be aware and be ahead of. Um, I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't a physical guy. I couldn't defend myself that way. I used to sleep with a knife in my pocket. That was just more of a psychological defense, you know. But it wasn't fun. It was very. You had to always be aware and conscious of the next minute. Or what's this? Or a police officer. I've had people approach me on the street when I was a kid, pretending to be a police officer. You know, and they were just parasites. And um, so I attribute that part of my life to being able to cope going in a pipe and not being claustrophobic. I was still claustrophobic, but I knew how to defend myself mentally. My neurons, I could fight back. I covered one eye, feel a pipe, do kinds of things to bring me around to reality. And I used to fight through it. So they always asked me when I came out of the pipe, I'd been in there for a couple of hours, 4 hours maybe, and how'd it go in there? Piece of cake. I needed my job. I wasn't going to say I was scared to death. But they never checked the color of my underwear, so I got the job.
Well, I've got to tell you, you're the kind of person who is definitely an optimist. And you can look back at your life without any bitterness and just say, I needed that part to get me to where I am now.
Yeah.
And you, no anger or bitterness at all for anything that's happened to you up until this point. You just keep moving through it and use it as a strength tool, a
Well,
strengthening tool.
when you know what the finish line looks like, and growing up on the South Shore, I knew what the finish line should look like. You know, I saw
Yeah,
successful people. St.
very.
Lambert were the uh, what do you call
The
it?
Taylors?
All the bankers and people lived on the South Shore. You saw
Yeah, I know.
quality. You saw quality of people, right? And
Yeah.
and even in sports, we had the very best of people involved with kids in sports. So you saw what quality should be, and then I saw the opposite. You know, and so you know what you should be trying to get to. You know, but I don't know if I'm expressing it
I,
correctly.
I no, you're expressing it perfectly because I grew up on the South Shore.
Yeah.
Very proud of that. And we were so different from even the kids who were being raised elsewhere. I had friends in Westmount, friends everywhere, and then I moved to the West Island after my mom died. And there was nothing like this. There was no reality in those bases. We had it all. We had this community that was so strong that we were elevated. And we saw our fathers, we saw our mothers, we saw all these people who did their jobs, came home, had supper with their families. Now, you moved out of home when you were 15 or 14. So, would you like to talk about why you ran away?
Well, I left home because I was disappointing everybody. I couldn't function in school, strapped every day, bullied at school by the kids on the school grounds, laughed and whatever. And I was 5'2", and you're not much of a scrapper at 5'2", and the other ones are already 6 foot. So yeah, I ran away from home.
Did you keep
After
in touch with your Did you keep in touch with your parents?
Oh yeah, I did. They knew where I was. They helped me. My dad was a foreman at General Steelwares in Point St. Charles. My mom worked at Simpson Sears in the dress workshop. They were working people, but quality people, church-going people, you know, and we learned our values. But I didn't know how I was going to please them when the principal or teachers would call home and say, I'm not applying myself, and I was disrupting the class, and da 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 da. So punished at school, strapped at school. When I go home, I'm kept in the backyard. I can't play hockey that year because I was not applying myself at school. And so you just, where am I going in life? And I ran away from home at 15. So
And you
that's what I
didn't
did.
leave home. You left home for a very Well, it's never a reason I've heard before that you're afraid of disappointing the people you lived with, so you left them.
Yeah.
You know, do you have brothers and sisters?
I've got a brother who just passed last year, a younger brother, and my sister has never spoken to me since I wrote the book because I mentioned a bitch she was all my life to me. But she was the one that came home from school 2 years older, telling my parents how bad I was at school and how I was in trouble and blah, 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 blah. So,
Well, the truth hurts, doesn't it? When she's got that in her face later on, she's feeling
yeah,
guilty.
yeah. So,
But I'm sorry you lost your younger brother because that's too bad. But
yeah.
now the book itself? Let's talk about the title.
Well, the title, My Headwinds to Freedom, excuse me, came to me in the middle of the night after I was writing this book and wondering what the heck should I call this book I'm writing. And I raised homing pigeons all my life. Ever since I was 7 years old, I had homing pigeons, and I studied birds and animals. People used to bring birds to me that were caught by a cat or a broken wing, and I would put splints on them. I would do surgery on them, so with just a regular needle and thread, sewing animals up and stuff like that. I knew about iodine for disinfectant, and that's what I used to do. So I love birds and animals. I get along with them fine. With people, I couldn't handle it. So I even forget your question now. What is it?
I do. It doesn't matter. Every time I ask something, it gets better with your stories. Maybe maybe it's the animals
Oh,
that
the
led you.
title of my book. The title of my
Oh
book. And, so my birds, I used to train my birds and I won a lot of races. I used to fly them home 500 miles a day with a club. And I started winning because I was using techniques with them that not many people did or know about. So I was able to motivate birds, like my hens would fly home at a stronger pace when they were sitting on 10-day-old eggs. They hatch at 21 days.
Yeah.
And 10-day-old eggs, the instinct of the hen would be to race home with more vigor. Males, I used to use the sex tool with the hens and take them away from the hen and bring them back the day before I
You were
basket.
trafficking pigeons. You were trafficking pigeons. There has to be a law against that.
So I learned how to race, and I won a lot of big races. I got a few trophies downstairs, and
I guess
I
they
used-
gave them to you. Sorry, I
Right,
said they gave the trophies to you because your pigeons were too tired to carry them home.
so, no, but it's fun to be successful at something when you're struggling all your life, right? So
Oh, yeah.
these little things, I never became good at. And when after my diving career was over with the pipeline construction and stuff like that, found a gal to take a chance on me, took her to New Brunswick with an axe, pregnant, and $700, and I knocked the bush down and built the largest operation in North America.
What is it? Pigeon operation?
Nope, it was fur farming. I
Were you
met
a
a
meat?
guy. I
You
met
were
a
a
guy
meat
out.
farmer?
Yeah, I met a guy out west when I was sleeping in my car at one point in BC, and he was panning gold in the Quesnel River. I know what that guy's doing. I got out of my car. I walked across, rolled up my pants, walked across the river to the sandbar where he was panning gold. I don't know why I rolled up my pants. The water was up to my armpits. And I go over there, and this big guy, he's an old fella, but he didn't even acknowledge me there. I waited until he had his sandwich, and I saw what he was doing, and I walked over, picked up the shovel, and I started shoveling where he was, putting dirt in his slough because I was watching what he was doing. I ended up by finishing the season in the fall with him, and he asked me would I like to help him trap. that winter because he had a cabin on the other side of the river, and
Was he trapping a beaver?
he was trapping everything. And I didn't know what he was doing, but I said, sure. I mean, I was sleeping in my car.
Sure.
He had a cabin. So we used to use inverted truck hoods, the old trucks, the hood over top of the engine, the hood of a truck.
Yeah.
We used to use them upside down as toboggans. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And had rope pull them through the woods, bring our bait and traps, and then we do 10 miles this way one day, 10 miles this way the next day, baiting and setting up traps. Now he trapped lynx, bobcat, beaver, everything.
Fox.
Then fox, everything. We bring them home at night in the toboggans, and we skin them out and put them on boards and flesh them. Sometimes work till 3 in the morning, and then bang out, go again the next day. So it was all work, and but he taught me how to harvest the woods. And I'm thinking, I was following him one day. It was a February day, and the snow was getting sticky, and I got short, stubby legs, and I'm going through this. He built me a pair of snowshoes, but anyway, still hard work. This guy was an old guy. He was probably around 60. I'm 82 now, so I know what 60 is. I could hardly keep up to him, and I was an 18-year-old buck, 19 years old. And there's got to be a better way of harvesting the woods than this. And I started having imagination of buying a swampy area and raise beaver, in harvesting as a farm. So I approached 3 governments, Ontario, Alberta, trying to get some land that I could call mine. And I tried to sell them on the idea that I knew what I was going to do. But at 19, who's going to buy into it, right? So I said to hell with it. And I met a gal and to take a chance on me, and we went to New Brunswick. And with an axe, I knocked down about 20 acres of land. It took me 2 years. And I built the largest silver fox and mink operation in North America. I had 4,000 silver foxes. I did artificial insemination, never been done in the world before. I did my own pathology work when my animals were concussing themselves in pens. And I'm the fellow who discovered what happens to the neurons in the brain when concussed. And they're a very hyper animal, and in pens, when they get fighting or in breeding season, women go a little nuts sometimes. And when they're in heat. Anyway, I'm just fooling around. They hit the post, they concuss themselves, and some of them were dying. And I didn't know how come, but I did my own autopsies because I couldn't afford veterinary medicine. And there was a young lad going to Truro Agricultural College in Nova Scotia, up at the farm a few miles up the road. And I tapped into him, and he took an interest in what I was doing. So we were able to use the laboratory at Truro Agricultural College, and I found out that when the neurons are concussed and damaged and bruised, they secrete potassium, leaving a void in the neuron that is taken up to the calcium that's in our bodies, and that's what gives the sedation effect and the tranquility and whatever that people have a hard time with when they're concussed, hockey players and stuff, when they're concussed. Yeah, so what happens with the calcium that's in these, if it happened to a wild animal, they would go underneath the bush and go to sleep, right? For a week if they have to void, to slow their metabolism down and go to sleep, and it slowly voids. The calcium will slowly void out of the neurons. But humans aren't that intelligent. You've just had your bell rung when you get a concussion on the ice. Get up and at it. What's the matter with you? What happens then is the neuron that is packed full of calcium,
Solidifies.
the calcium will solidify, and
That's right.
that kills that neuron. And I'm the one that discovered that. So
Thank you. I had a head injury. I had a head injury when I was 33.
okay,
That's the reason. That's the reason I'm in Vermont. And I kind of lost, I didn't lose 5 years of my life, but I think after 5 years, I realized I was completely better. And I didn't have to pretend to remember your name anymore. I was probably better way before. But I got a job on a dairy farm with my 2 babies so that everything was routine and routine. And, you know, it was hard work and it was a bad brain injury, but I think the slowing of the pace of my life through farming, and because it was routine,
yeah,
I talk to these other people who are at 5 years, 10 years, 20 years of post injury, and I seem to have really gotten better, in a stronger way than a lot of people who stay in their environment in the busy cities. So I think I didn't know all this. I wish I'd known you back then. I would have laid on my back for 5 years.
nobody knew anything. When I brought these findings up to pathologists later on, they thought I was nuts because I was this electric guy doesn't know anything about pathology and couldn't express my words properly. Didn't know the vocabulary and stuff. So it was a tough sell for them to buy into what I was doing. But now we have protocol for sports medicine and military because of my findings of it, and it's progressed from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you a million times.
No, it's good.
It's the best, now that they're finding out all of these things from impact on football players post mortem. That all goes back to what you discovered.
Yeah, and when the neurons, not all the neurons were solid and solidified and dead. If they would, Crosby was the last one that we got. He stayed out of the game for 2 years. Now he's back at a high level again, whereas he couldn't even cope tying up his shoelaces. So,
I can relate to that.
So that's what happens anyway. The neurons are solid with calcium; they solidify, and that's permanent. Once a brain cell is dead, it's dead. But they can rebuild adjoining cells together, and you can get back in depending on how much injury is permanent.
Well, the brain is amazing because it can regenerate. And I'm still hoping that mine gets. I'd love mine to regenerate a little more, but we'll wait for that.
I did that. I also did artificial insemination on my ranch. Never been done in the history of it. But
Now, you must for a cow. I know how to do a cow, but when you do a artificial insemination for a female mink,
yeah.
what do you use? I mean, they use
Well,
a rod for a cow.
I had a guy design tools for me to. First of all, you got to harvest the male, you harvest the sperm, and then you have to get it into the correct locale for fertilization.
Yeah.
Like a fox will produce between 8 and a dozen eggs. They don't all fertilize because to maximize fertilization, they have to be bred approximately late on the second day. And that's when most of the eggs are there to be fertilized. Otherwise, some have already passed through and some have not entered into the chamber yet to be fertilized. So you have to know when the best time to fertilize to get the larger litter size.
Do you take her temperature?
No, but I knew what a rut gauge was. But that I did it by visualization because I could tell by the female's vulva, the swelling and the texture of the vulva that she was in high heat. And but to confirm, I had to do this artificial insemination and even put down a female after I had impregnated her.
Why?
Because I had to know how many eggs were fertilized then. I couldn't let her in the pen with the male again, because then he would continue to breed her 2 or 3 days. But to maximize fertilization, the eggs are there late on the second day. Most eggs are there late on the second day. And I had
Did
to
I hear
know,
you?
I had
Did
to
I hear you
know,
correctly? Sorry, did I hear you correctly when you said you had to put the female down sometimes
I
after
did, so I
fertilization?
would know how many eggs were fertilized.
Oh, you didn't
And
kill her.
yeah,
Oh, you had to
yeah.
kill her?
No, I had to put one down to find out, because I judged my assessment of where she was in her heat cycle. Don't forget, I can't read or write. I don't know anything about reading pathology. So I had to find out when her uh, high heat,
Fertile time.
when she would maximize fertilization, when most eggs were there to be fertilized. And I put her down and try to find out, and then took that to the lab to find out how many eggs were penetrated by sperm cells. And then
Wow.
I knew that to maximize fertilization and get larger litters, she had to be bred late on the second day. Well,
Oh,
to breed her late on the second day, you had to know when the first day was, right? So that was my job. And anyway,
I have a question. Where
yeah,
was your ranch exactly?
it was in
What?
Salisbury, New Brunswick. And
Okay, now,
when you go into the village, it's just off of north of Moncton, New Brunswick.
okay, I
On the
know.
pin-
My
on
father visited. My father went to visit you.
You did at my ranch,
Uh, Now, when I was about 11
yeah.
or 10, my father wanted to start a ranch,
Okay,
and he used to fly to Moncton all the time on business. In fact, he was the millionth passenger to land in Moncton, so they gave him a big thing. But when he was number million, but he came home from one of his business trips, and he said he visited an enormous facility raising fur babies. And he told my brother this and my mother. My mother was still alive. And he told me. And I started to cry because he said it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. And he said you could take a meat stick, you'd put meat, maybe it was you, you took meat on the end of a stick and did this, and the mink's nose would be with you the entire time. Was that you? Because anyway, I cried so hard, and I very rarely had any influence on my family at all. I was the invisible one, and the loudest, but still quite invisible because my ideas didn't necessarily fly. But my dad changed his mind because of my reaction, because I didn't want him to hurt animals for their fur.
I was an animal lover. Don't forget, I
I
used to.
know.
That's why it bothered me too. But I improved my litter size so much, and by doing that,
Well, of
um,
course.
and the quality of my fur, I was able to, doing artificial insemination, I take my best male and put him into a lot of females, keeping the best females for next year. And I ended up capturing top world markets in Helsinki, Finland. They were coming over to my little ranch in New Brunswick, buying my breeding stock. And I had never told them that I was doing artificial insemination. They couldn't understand how come my animals were all uniform in fur. Silver foxes, uh,
Oh,
you breed them for density, texture, and color. And I was able to have uniformity throughout. Instead of the graders at the auction houses taking a pelt from the Yukon and a pelt from New Brunswick, one from Ontario, they make a ring of 20 pelts and they sell them that way, auction them off.
yep.
Uniformity. Mine, I could have 20 my own pelts on one ring. They were coming from all over the world to buy my breeding stock and my fur. So
No, but you had more. You had mink too, right?
I had mink, but I had them in PEI.
Oh, then it
And,
wasn't your farm. It wasn't your farm that my dad visited then. But you had
okay,
in Prince Edward Island. You had the mink.
yeah, yeah. I
Well,
found
look at you getting around the Maritimes,
one of the
inseminating everywhere you went.
well, a fella, a fella came over from uh, Holland, and some of the best farmers I ever met came from Holland, Dutch farmers. Excuse me, and he wanted to immigrate to Canada with his young family, and he was a mink farmer, and he was kind of excited about what I was doing with foxes. Can we
Yeah.
do this with mink? So I assured him probably we could, and he immigrated over, and we bought a place in PEI together. He moved his family in, and he operated his mink ranch, and he liked what I was doing and applied it to that ranch. I owned 60% of it at the beginning, and then he bought me out, slowly over the years.
Well,
Well,
whatever it was quite an
yeah,
operation. Um, let's get back. Now we get off the mink thing. What came next? There was the scuba diving down miles of pipe, and then there was
then I went,
you
then I
name
went
it.
and then I was having four kids. Well, we lost a lot of kids. My wife couldn't carry full term, and I had to figure out. We buried two,
I'm
and
sorry.
we lost four. It was taking its toll on her. I didn't know what was happening, but then I found out, and I put it in my book, and now she won't talk to me. We've been separated a long time, but I
Can you
mentioned
share? Can you
I
share that?
I mentioned in the book that the reason she was losing babies and couldn't carry to full term is that before we were married, she had an abortion, and that left her with an incompetent cervix that couldn't carry kids full term.
I'm so sorry for her.
Yeah,
But
I am too, but I didn't know
that's
what
why I'm
that.
so glad. That's why I'm so glad abortion is legal now. In some, it's not legal everywhere in the states anymore because we have a fascist
I'm,
pig leading the country. Did I say that out loud? Fascist pig? I don't mean to take anything away from the word pig, but but
hey,
I
listen, I agree with you. I'm so worried and I'm so disappointed that this great country of the United States
yeah, I'm
is
only
so
I'm only
it's
praying
so
that it's temporary.
they're, are they that illiterate down there? I cannot believe it. That they
Well,
would allow this guy to put his finger in every pie that I mean it's unbelievable.
puts his finger in a lot of places that it shouldn't
I don't
be.
want to get into politics because I met too many. I have never met a guy like this before, but anyway.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about it, but my father, my father and your father, my grandfather and your grandfather probably fought against somebody who
Absolutely,
we fought.
they're turning over in their graves today.
That's exactly what I think. My dad's spinning,
Yep.
absolutely spinning. But and my other grandfather was not a spinner, but I'd say he lived. He came over from London, and he lived on Murray Avenue, and 304 Murray Avenue in the park, and that was our family. I didn't live there, but it was the family home, and it was in the family until my auntie Marion died about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and it's amazing what they would be saying right now, but it wouldn't be good. Anyway, let's change the subject because once I go down that little rabbit hole, you know what saved my bacon? Speaking of animals, you know what saved my bacon this summer? I was really depressed after the inauguration, and I lost all my Canadian business. I have an Airbnb and no Canadians anymore, and I'm right on the Canadian border, and they come here to ski at Jay Peak
Right?
or or hike or anything. We've got it all here in Newport. We can do anything here: fish, hike, water ski, downhill ski, cross country ski, snowshoe. Just enjoy the beauty.
Hey,
And all my
great.
Canadians came down, and now they don't. So somebody gave me a brand new baby raccoon that needed bottle feeding. They gave it to
Oh,
me, ironic, on July 4th. And I raised that little baby, bottle feeding it and getting it over its little sicknesses, and I had to spend the whole summer logging, because I cleared out a forest by myself so that I could build 20-foot high, 20-foot wide teepees 2 feet thick with the trees I cut down. It gave me something to do on my property, but it kept me outside with my baby. And I focused so much on her that teaching her how to be wild, and it was just so fulfilling that I completely stopped thinking about politics. So I'm still an animal lover. I'm still passionate about treating animals properly. And I worked on a dairy farm, so I worked for a very kind farmer. But I understand some of the things you have to do on a farm to be successful. So I totally understand the business of it. I don't necessarily think that farmers are all cruel, nor do I think mink and other sustainable industries
Hey, I
such as
got an
that.
idea.
What?
I got an idea.
What is it?
You want to get married?
Thank
We
you.
could we could be a hell of a team.
And we'll probably get along because you live in Ontario and I live in Vermont.
Yeah, we'll take
I
over
mean,
both provinces.
because my face is going so red right now.
We'll make Vermont our 13th province.
I think it should be. I used to live on the other side of Jay Peak. I've only lived in Newport, Vermont for 7 years. I lived for 35 years, I think, in Franklin County, Vermont. I moved there when I was 33. And there was a monastery, and it was run by monks who had been sent to the end of monkdom because St. Nectarios Monastery, and it was Brother Lazarus, Father, oh God, I interviewed him 10 times. Anyway, and then Brother Philip. They were just wonderful monks, but they decided that Vermont should secede from the nation. And now they're revolutionary monks. And I remember once, before it was legal, and I can say it now because it's totally legal, I had my clinic, and Brother Lazarus, who's now Bishop Lazarus, showed up at my house with a box of pot. And he said, "Your patients will appreciate this. Give this to your patients." And I went, "What is it?" And he says, "It's marijuana, fresh out of our garden." And I said, "Well, I really can't do this. I had to give it back." But they were wonderful. But they wanted to start the cessation from the country and make Vermont its own country. And I said, well, Quebec and Vermont would always get along, and I guess we can include part of Ontario, the rural part of Ontario. I don't know about Toronto, but I don't know. Belleville's got some nice farmland.
This is about as close to Toronto as I wanted to get. I knew that being crossing this country all over North America, States and Canada, weather-wise and everything else, I understood the risks of being on the coast for weather. I understood the temperature and the snow load of different parts of the country. I worked in the Yukon. I've been up in the territories. So the country well. I wanted to raise my family or the Okanagan Valley in BC.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. But not anymore. It's all gone. All those apple farms and stuff are pretty much gone. It's all taken up with condo from the oil industry in Alberta, people. Anyway, so all those farms are gone, and it's still a nice place weather-wise. I picked a pretty good location to move when I sold my ranch. And
How long have you lived in Ontario? How long have you lived in Ontario?
35 years now, maybe.
What? 30? Did you say 35 years?
I think I've been here 35 years now, or 30 years.
You retired as a young man. What did you do after you sold the ranch?
Well, I bought a pet retail chain food store here. My wife wouldn't come with me if I didn't get her a job. So I bought a pet food store. And my oldest daughter, and her ran it. I taught them how to rotate inventory and how to purchase and how to buy and whatever. And then I went working as a door-to-door salesman for a food company. and I was selling door to door. And I'm doing that right now. I'll sell my book door to door. I have a ball. The people I meet every day and sit out in their backyard having coffee because they want to hear more about my book and stuff. It's pretty exciting. My head hardly fits through the door today, but it's
Wow. You, you know, you have a lot to be proud of which to be proud. So you deserve a swelled head. You set an example for a lot of people who don't, who believe what people tell them when they're young, so they don't try anymore.
yeah,
And you know, I had one person in my life tell me I could do anything. That was my mother, and she died
okay.
55 years. She died 55 years ago. And then I had one person in my life tell me I had a choice to do what I wanted to do or not, and that was my brother. He said you can be, mellow, you can sit on a couch and watch soap operas, you can live a normal life, or you can do life.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
told me that after I had my first major accident. I knocked off my elbow when I fell off the bike at the airport, speeding across the tarmac, and I spun out,
Yeah.
lost my elbow. And it was, and you know who helped me through this when I was getting that? Yvon Cornwallis.
Oh yeah. What was I going to say?
He was a
Or
really good number 12 on the Canadians, Beliveau's best friend. He, he eulogized Jean Beliveau at the funeral, and I've never
right.
been able to watch that. Anyway, Yvon Cornwallis bumped into me several times when I was going through this, and it was several operations over a year to rebuild my arm. And every time he'd see me, he'd go, "Hey, little girl, Heather, what happened your arm? It's so ugly." And because it was black from here to here, and I would say, "Oh, and he'd say, and he'd tell me a story about some of the injuries he'd observed and how the guys could come back and play.
Yeah.
He had no idea how much he was helping me. But my brother and my mother were the ones who told me that no matter what the society told me, no matter what the expectations of women were, it was up to me. You could live down to the expectations of society, or you could live up to your own.
The worst
And
thing that humans do is listen to the negativity of people that won't put the effort in, that don't have the determination, that are negative people, and it's the worst thing you can have in your life surrounding you because it takes a certain perseverance to bring yourself above that so
Yep.
you can continue on your own path. So many people I followed over the cliff. It was unbelievable. It held me back many years, but I believe, you don't. I'm a positive person. I like to think well of people, but I follow too many good thinking people or good. They thought they were doing the right thing, so I don't necessarily say that they were trying to steer me wrong, but I went down some crooked roads, I can tell you. I don't want to tell you all my stories.
We'll wait for the next book. Is there another book coming out? What
I
I did
have,
wrong?
it took me nearly 3 years to write this book, and it was so emotional for me.
Of
Uh,
course.
and it took a long time. And I was a one finger guy on a computer, just learning how to work a computer, and um, it was a long haul, but I had nothing else to do during COVID. So
Did
now
The isolation didn't bother me at all.
I could not handle that. I couldn't, like even right now, I'm going through a rough spot right now because um, I'm with a gal who I met in Belleville. She was originally from Magog, Quebec.
Hey, I'm close to Magog. I'm 40 miles from Magog.
Okay, well, her sister
Who
lives
is she?
she's downstairs. Andre, are you there? You want to stick your face around the corner here, please?
Yeah, I grew up on Lake Memphremagog. We had our summers, and now I'm on Lake Memphremagog in Newport.
I
So,
met her at a singles dance when I moved here, sold my ranch.
viens
So
ici, André.
she
Venez
just
voir.
got out. She just got out of the beauty parlor and
Yeah. Come on.
got her hair
Come
done.
on. André.
She's,
Assez, vous précédemment, Marie, là. Bonjour, André. Ça va? Vous venez de Magog? Je viens de Québec, je viens de Québec moi-même et je demeure à Newport, Vermont, juste presque Magog.
Je suis partie de Magog en 1967.
Oh, left in 1967.
Uh-huh.
And where did you go? Où allez-vous après ça?
Je me suis, pour la première fois, à sortir du Québec. J'ai déménagé à Kingston parce que mon époux avait un emploi là.
Un maudit anglais, là?
Mhm.
Ah, c'est dommage, c'est dommage.
his name was Quinn. Anyway, he took off and I found her at a singles dance one night and waltzed her into my home here and
The rest is history.
we were gonna be a couple. I gave her a ring. I went down on one knee. I had a group here, music, and she took my ring and 3 days later gave it back to me. She says, "Once was enough for me. I'm not going there again."
Yeah, but you could get the ring.
So no, I got the ring back.
Okay.
And
The ring back.
she lives upstairs in my house here, and I do the shopping and the cooking.
You got it made there. I guess you better come back into focus. But à bientôt, André. À la prochaine. It's just so nice to talk with you. It's like talking to somebody I've known all my life, and of course with a good woman from Quebec, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You joining the show?
You're well. I'm looking for two
Okay.
cleaning ladies.
Anyway, we're on live TV here.
Oh, we've only got 5 minutes left, so we've got 5 minutes left. Andre, either sit down or disappear because I can only see your hand. There, we've only got 5. Okay, now get close together so I can see both of you.
Thank you
So
very
now
much.
let's talk about this.
10 years, so that's great.
I think so. I have to ask you now, Ian. I'm going to take back seat for you, and I'm going to ask this woman, what's it like to live with a dynamo like this?
You don't know.
I don't get perturbed by too much. So most of the time he does his own thing and I do mine.
That's
She's
a good relationship.
She's a very passive person. I had a good time initially with her. Took her for trips around Maritimes and did traveling. She actually paid for a trip to go to BC and back for us, and we got along quite well. We used to dance a lot, but
Okay, I think-
now she's more interested in. Yeah, her hands are very crippled up.
Garde le même aussi, la même chose. See? It's all right. You know what these are? These are
Well,
the
she sits in her chair reading her books and very passively. I can't be that quiet. This is the longest I've been in the house. It's already 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I had to find some trouble somewhere.
Well, I hope you go out and find some trouble, Ian. We'll talk to. I hope we talk again. Et André, à la prochaine, okay? We're going to close the show now, and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put Ian's contact information so you can order a book and be inspired by someone who no one expected. Nothing was expected from Ian when he was a child. He battled against all the negativity and made such a success of his life, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. And there are so many people in the world, like Ian says, who are willing to tear you down. Don't hang around with those people.
Well, that's
Thank you.
right. So I'm going to have to find somebody for you. I'm going to marry her.
Okay. Fine.
So I was telling me, go find a girlfriend. I want to.
It could never work, Ian. We'd burn each other out in a minute and a half. We'd do damage to one another.
I can last a lot longer than that.
God, my face going red. Anyway, I thank you so much. I love. thank you very much for being on Life is Good. Kelby is my ever-loving editor slash fixer-upper. So all the mistakes I've made in the show will be taken out. And you have nothing to worry about there. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where you'll find Ian's book. And if you need pants, or even if you have a teenager who's going through some tough times, get them this book and read it yourself. You will not be disappointed, and you might find kicking yourself in the pants and getting up and getting it done. Right, Ian?
Absolutely.
Right.
Nobody can do it for you.
Ian, and thanks to the audience for watching Life is Good. I'll see you all
It's a
next week.
pleasure.
Really gonna rock tonight.